All right. Welcome to another video. Today's video, I'm going to talk about something that I think is super important for any of us, especially if you live in North America or even in the West. It is the concept of being in debt. So, before I say anything, guys, don't get into debt, especially if you don't understand like your finances or you don't understand like how you don't even have a plan on to how to pay it off. So it's so like common here, especially in North America, probably Europe as well. You know, you grow up as a child, right? You're growing up, blah blah blah, and then once you turn 19 or 20, you may have come across this where your bank will say, "Hey, you're eligible for a credit card. Would you like one?" And then as you go through, they'll be like, "Oh, we can extend it," right? So my experience with the credit card was when I was 19, right? I had a credit card. Uh, it was meant to just pay off a few things, just like a few like groceries and stuff like that. But what it does, it kind of gets you that, oh, well, I have money, right? Because you're inexperienced. You don't have that knowledge when I was 18 or so, right? You don't know about it. So I started buying like some new shoes. I started buying this. And yes, I was able to pay it off because I was working part time at a grocery store, but at the same time too, it instilled this mindset that I have this extra money, and I kept telling myself this is my money, right? And then I started going through some financial like struggles. I think when I was like 20, and then I realized that this is not gonna help, right? I realized it's not my money. It kind of before it was like pushing me like, hey, you have this cushion, this is good, like you have this money, but I wasn't spending on the right things. I was getting in debt for no apparent reason. I was in consumer debt, right? So one day I was like, you know what, I'm gonna cut this credit card, I'm done. So I went to the bank, I said I don't want this credit card anymore, right? I cut the credit card, and then I decided to just whatever money I have personally, I will leave it for myself, right? That's going to be good. I will have that money to myself, right? I still didn't know too much about finances then, but that was the first step where I realized if I want to buy something, I have to be able to afford it with my own money. The second thing was when I went into student loan debt, right? So I had student loan debts. I was I think it was in the five digits, right? I took student loan debt. I was like, you know what, that's fine. But once I got into the debt, I started to realize, man, I'm in debt. I'm like, wow. And then as I was going to pay it off, right? What happened was I started to realize that I had to pay off something every month, right? And then I had a classmate say, "Oh, you know what? I'll pay it off within the next 10 years. I'll do the minimum payment." In my head, I was like, "No, I can't do that. I can't do that." And I still remember every time when I was in debt, I was only in debt for about a year, right? But I remember that I was like just panicking. It was obviously it's a mental thing too, but I was panicking. I was thinking, dude, I'm in debt. I want to get out of this. I feel like I'm a slave, right? The quickest way to become a slave, get in debt, especially with interest, right? So I told myself, I have to pay my debt off as fast as possible. So I paid it off in 12 months. It was meant to be 3 years. First it was 5 years. I went up to 3 years, and I went down to 1 year, right? I did that, and then I learned something from there. I realized that once I was out of debt, I realized, this is something that I should stay on. Don't get into debt. Because once I'm in debt, I have this thing where I'm not just worried about, my own finances. I'm worried about someone else's finances. So I'm paying off this person every month. It's like it's like buying like a muffin, right? Like blueberry muffins. I like blueberry muffins. So I buy blueberry muffin, right? I bring it home, and then someone comes in, takes one of my blueberry muffins every time. Every time I buy a blueberry muffin, someone takes that blueberry muffin. I can't do anything about it. They have the right to take that blueberry muffin, right? And then so that's kind of how it is. But at the same time too, they're able to take a little more. That's interest. So they can take like maybe a third of the other muffin, you know. So they keep every month. It's like so it's like you're paying something off, like you're giving a part of yourself to someone else, which is why, guys, get out of debt. The pandemic that happened, a lot of people struggled because many people struggled because they were in debt. I'm not talking about student loan debt. If you are in student loan debt, be sure to make sure that what you're studying will guarantee that you make a certain amount of income, right? That you know that you're going to stick with it. What I mean by this is people had like all these debts and they had to pay it off: car payments, mortgages, consumer debt, all these debts that you don't really need to jump into. You can buy a used car instead of trying to buy you know, that nice 2020 Nissan, whatever it is. Uh, you can like make that sacrifice. But many of us were so engaged in this lifestyle of like, man, keeping up with the Joneses, or I like this, I like that. I want the new PS5, I want the new Xbox Series X. You know what? I'll get into debt. I'll work a few shifts and stuff like that, right? But what we don't know is we don't know the outcome. We don't know what's going to happen a little later. People didn't expect a pandemic to happen. People didn't expect that everything was going to be closed for like 2 3 months. We didn't all expect that. Now obviously there's like things like CERB, and I know America had their own payment thing. But what do you do when that thing ends, right? If you're in debt now, think about it. If you make a couple $1,000s a month, and then you come, everything stops, and then you start making $2,000, right? And then remember, I have this payment, this car payment. Oh, I've paid $250 on that, right? 1750, right? $200 there. That's 1550, and then another $50 there, 1500, right? Then you have to pay a rent, you have to do this and that. What does that like? Think about it. If you were not in debt, you wouldn't have. And even if you just struggle, you're struggling, you're this and that, and you're broke, you have no money because there's no more like payments from the government. You're gonna have to still pay them off. You're gonna have to pay them one way or another, and if you don't, interest goes up. So the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I don't want people to be going into debt for no apparent reason, or just to flex. It's not right. If you want to buy something, raise up the income, make more money. I have an account which is called the opportunity account, right? So what I do with this opportunity account, I put a certain amount of my income into that account, and anytime I find something that I like, or I really want to buy, or an investment I want to make, I go into that account, and then I use that because I know that that money is 100% for me, and even if I spend that money, it's not gonna hurt me. Like it's not gonna do anything. Like, if I mean the purchase, I don't like the purchase, and that's the different story. But it doesn't affect my finances. Like, it's my money. So I wanted to make this video because if you guys are considering to buy that new car, maybe your car is broken down, this and that, and you feel like, oh man, I'm due, right, for a new car, and you want to get a loan, right? You want to get a house, a mortgage. You want to invest in maybe some new gear, right? For your business, that's a different story, which you can talk about that later. But if you feel like, if you're considering something and you realize, oh, I may have to go into a little bit of debt, my advice: don't do it unless you really, really have a plan, or you really know what you're doing. Most of us don't know what we're doing, which is why I highly advise most of us not to do it. But that's all I really want to talk about. If you guys want to go deeper into this, I can. But today's video, I just want to talk about that. Like, don't get into debt, guys. Just don't. Like, the majority of us shouldn't be getting into debt. Like that's something that we shouldn't be. Don't be a slave to the society. Don't be a slave. If like the feeling of being out of debt, I'm gonna tell you this is uh there's a guy, Dave Ramsey. I don't follow him heavily, but I did when I was trying to get out of debt. I did take that step that he mentioned. Uh, Being out of debt is amazing. Like, I've gotten to travel. I've been able to buy new gear. I've been able to just do focus on me. I've been able to even change my career path simply because I know that I can do it, and I don't have to, like, there's no debts that are on top of me, and I can still work. I can still do this. I can still focus, right? When I was able to travel, I traveled. Obviously there's some other expenses, but there's no debt. Like, there's no feeling of, oh, if I don't pay this thing off, I'm gonna like struggle hard, right? So yeah, that's the message today. I don't want to keep this too long, but just don't get into debt. Like, I highly advise it. If you are thinking of getting into debt, make sure you do your research. Yeah, that's all for the video. Thanks again. Don't forget to stay authentic, subscribe. Peace.